show you what this building could and should will be becoming. So with that, I encourage people to come up here, look at the plans, or look at the handouts that we have. Take like maybe a couple minutes just to brief yourself with it. And then we're going to do each, like a quick little 5-minute presentation on each plan to tell you the benefits of that plan. And then we're going to open it up to your guys' feedback. We want to hear as much feedback from you as possible. So with that, is there any questions on that sort of brief overview? So with that, I encourage you, let's just say for 5 minutes to look at the plans. So basically 10 after, we'll start our 5-minute presentations. Okay?
Now we're at this point.
The reason that the library has the dam in the same place is the financial feasibility study, which is based on a certain staff level. To raise the staff level, they don't have the money to operate. So you have to make sure that that if there's a recession, you can still staff it with a single point of entry person. It's going to staff up the library, but we want to more people. We already staffed you up with that 9 full-time person. Right, which is, if you look at the budget, there's an additional full-time person and enough money for the regular part-time. So,
We can buffer the library with the schools.
just, we have to, in order to get the funding from the SDA, we have to submit a 60-page financial feasibility study. It has to show that this is long-term stable from year to year. And part of that is the staff members.
Yeah, that's what the indoor public space is. That's the indoor court.
Right, and that's part of the reason they want to do it there, because the grade of the road is right on.
So you have the lockers and toilets. And there's a dance room.
Library is staffed by county. They're building another section. Is this a new section down here? That's existing. Okay, so this is the other new.
The computers, a lot of books, all that stuff's counted. We spend $80,000 a year. We added another, I think, 60, 70 for the extra staffing of that. That's not enough to have 2 separate staffs. So you have to consolidate those staff and expand the staff. So that's one staff. It was gonna, we had 2 full-timers and at least an additional 4. And that's the current staff we already have, full-time and a part-time. And then another full-time.
You were kind
The part-time, kind of envisioned the second part-time as a variety of people switching different functions.
It's more about layout than it is
You're going to have a dance class. That will be first, and you have to pay staff for that.
Well, it is.
layout than it's not necessarily about the space. Is that what I heard him say?
But we were trying to show different.
They probably slightly expanded on the current library. The
Yeah.
library is
Oh, it would be good.
As far as content square footage. You know, somewhat similar to that here.
So most likely we'll expand the library's hours to a regular open and a regular close, and probably expand it over to some evening hours.
So
You'd have one staff morning. So that's what we envision. There's no way to do this expanded hours.
Second story walking track.
Not
Yeah, that leads here.
This one,
It doesn't necessarily have to.
this
The library can be open
one,
from
also
1
the
to
one
5,
that
and
the
the gym's going to be open until 9 or something.
the other one's
That could be staffed. you probably have a person that starts in the morning and a person that starts in the evening, right? So somebody comes in at 1 o'clock, stays till 9 at night. And then one person comes in. Yeah. And at the same time, the senior center operates, they're operating and they're not, their staff isn't going to make much help. But they're going to get it going.
So this is this added middle section. Yeah, but you want it, but at the end, that's where, we ended up adding the.
Yeah, and we'll have, we have a community theater here, we have a community license board. It's a big facility and all that's built.
So
You want
So
3,000.
what we're going to do now is I'm going to do a 5-minute presentation on each option. There is no particular order to the options, it's going to be a hypothetical. Mic on.
It is, it's just not very loud, and he's too tall for it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You might pick it out of the thing, hold it in your hand.
Okay. So we're actually going to have 3 different people give a presentation on each different option. So the first option up is going to be option Cooper, and we're going to say it.
My name is Sam, I'm with GLHN Architects and Engineers. This first concept, is it important that I talk into this?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
'Cause we have to, the video has to record you too.
This first concept, we've kind of organized the spaces to create more of an open park type of feel to the site. The new building takes on less of a linear type of organization in order to open the site up to more green space.
Yes.
Hold on, I can try to turn it off.
The building in this option is less of a linear organization. It opens up more green space in the site for public functions. We have kind of a meandering path which would house art installations or historic exhibits and installations. We have in the new building a lobby entry area with a game room that gives access to some of the other functions of the gymnasium, such as an exercise room and a dance studio. And then you have your maker space over here with vehicular access into an outdoor yard. Over on this side would be a main parking lot off to the side of the building to allow for more green space adjacent to the building rather than asphalt and paving. Vehicular access or service access for deliveries and service vehicles up to the senior center where we have our new commercial/teaching kitchen. Co-working space adjacent to that where some of the safety minors classrooms are currently. And then in the newer building over here is mostly becoming the library function with a front desk and another one of the classrooms, opening that up into the existing corridor which would ramp down to access on either side. So you have independent access into the library from the north and the south side with an additional classroom adjacent to the library. And then on the second level of the new building would be an elevated walking track over the gymnasium with additional classrooms and a small observation patio to the north side that would give views down Queen Creek Canyon. I'll turn the mic over to Miguel.
So on the middle option, what we're calling option Grande, similar to the option Cooper. The new building is pretty much a rectangle. It's tilted a little bit to be true, actually north and south orientation, so it maximizes the exposure, if possible, north and south windows. It also provides the opportunity for a brand new facade facing Main Street, so we can actually give the new senior center, all the new functions, senior center, library, gymnasium, classrooms, the whole multi-generation center, a presence to Main Street with a new elevation. We've located in this option a one point of entry so that this option is geared around actually allowing that there be one point of entry into the complex with a courtyard and a ramp up to the second floor, but also that the library and...
They can't see it.
Oh, okay.
Is there a way we can bring that forward here?
Oh, I just talked over.
We can, No, we can come down, let us come down to you, don't move all that stuff around.
So, it's similar to this on the, this building is at an angle, by parking out here off of Low Street. In this the new building, we located the indoor public space, the lockers, the one point of entry, the classrooms, dance room, and unlike this option where the observation deck was on the north side of the building, we've actually located the observation deck on the south side of the building so that you have 360-degree views of all security. So you can see the mountains. Maker spaces and singular space. One of the key motivators of this plan is thinking about phasing and how we would phase construction of this project. We know that the first space that has to move, the first phase that has to be kicked off is the senior center. So we try to locate the senior center in a spot that once the renovations are complete, that will not be affected by future construction, all right? We didn't want to move things twice, all right? So once we move it, once we finish it, we don't want to have to go back and disturb it for future construction. So this plan, the way it lays out is that after we finish one piece, we move on to the second piece, whatever that piece may be, whether it's to complete the renovation of the existing building or build a new building, the other parts of the construction will not affect what has already been completed. Right? And so with that, I am going to turn it over to Miguel.
Okay, so the third option we labeled option Magma. And the idea started with how do we do this space as a one-story building? Because all the other options have a two-story space that would likely require a elevator. And so that's going to be a cost impact that we were trying to eliminate here. So it makes the gym fatter because you have a walking track around it. In the other options, that can overhang over the perimeter of the gymnasium or the outside of the court area. We then looked at where we could put the maker space because the maker space and all the others is in the music room and it needs an outdoor space. So we looked at placing the maker space at the rear of the gymnasium at the back of the lot so they can do their outdoor work. And then when we were looking at the existing building, we went out on a limb with this one. We saw the stage area, something that's only used periodically throughout the year. So we thought if we're going to get the kitchen in quickly, we could take that space there, close off that wall, put the kitchen in, temporarily use some of these classrooms that are empty for the senior center, but then over time, develop this space as the senior center with the Diaz for the chamber at this end of the room, and then it can be a multifunctional space because it seems like the senior center currently operates a few hours during the middle of the day, but it also wants to be open for other kitchen activities, and the council is only used monthly, maybe periodically a little bit more, but the majority of the daytime, it's not as well used. So it seems like trying to mesh the spaces and make it more usable. Classrooms for the educational center and the business center were located along the 1950s portion of the school. One thing that we looked at doing in this option is this area along here, we had proposed at one point doing a walk that would reflect the history of Superior by putting artwork on the walls and having a space that's open to the public that they can walk through there. And I noticed that in the corner there, it's an addition that was enclosed. So looking at opening it up, because there's some beautiful trees in that corner that seem to kind of make the space tight, and maybe opening the space up around it is going to make it a little bit more pleasant to walk through there. We then took the library and put it into the oldest part of the building, 1920s, and we incorporated the game room one of the things that we had talked about with the library staff was how do we get more people coming to the library? So if you look at modern libraries, they have spaces for computer access, which is part of this program, and they have meeting rooms that can be used for different groups and organizations in the town that can come here and use the rooms. The access primarily for the library will be off of Porphyry Street. So when we open up the windows along there, that can become a display area for books. And that gets daylight into the space. All of the plans, all three of them, talk about putting glazing back into the buildings, where it's been removed so that you have some daylight. And it's all surrounding this courtyard. When we looked at security on this plan, we came up with this rotunda. And this is the only area where we ended up with a multi-level space because we had no observation deck here. And so the idea would be to put a stair that would travel around and would open up to a deck at the second level, and there would be openings in the rotunda to look out towards the various mountain views. So it really does give a 360-degree view if we can plan it at the right elevation and get people up high enough so that they can go up there. But it would all be secured by closing gates along the entry level, so you don't have people climbing up there at odd hours of the night. And so that was the third option. Yes, we're ready. And so that's the basic organization of how that, and I think on all of these, the phasing of these existing buildings can be done as money's allocated. So the library moves when it's ready to be funded and put in here. The classrooms, when people are ready to start using them, can be remodeled piecemeal, so that everything can roll out over a period of time instead of all at once, except for the kitchen, which we know has to go in first, and then the building of the new building.
So with that, we're going to open it up to any questions on the plans or comments.
Ross, is that every three options from the elevated observation place spots, not just the first option?
The first two options have an elevated observation deck.
Yes.
And the third one has
Third.
a
So, because on the first option, it's not clear, maybe I'll specify more than
yeah. So on the first option, Operation Cooper, the option deck is here, right? On Operation Grande, it is here, and then in the rotunda.
Russ, what's the cost of the elevator? What's the projected cost of the elevator?
Elevators can run, depending on what type of elevator you run. You go with hydraulic or you go with machine wheelless elevators. You're looking at somewhere probably between $100,000 to $200,000. For that's not just, that's the elevator and the shaft.
The second option, can I say what I like about it?
Go for it.
I like the parking space, number one. The parking space is larger than the first of both options, which we like. I like that library and the senior center is separated from all the activities. This, we are working here, so it perhaps will be, during the day you have all the time public. To me, I don't think the senior center is a good idea to have next to town offices. Next is, I like that storage space area in the future could be used for the kitchen, yes. And like the suggestion is to move the classrooms to here. And the view, if you look at it, like you mentioned, I looked at this side, and that will be visible, this building will be visible from US 60, from Main Street, from everywhere on the city point of town. So here it's just that's those are my main points. I think why I would prefer the second option.
Is there a walking track around the second option?
Yes, the walking track is actually on the second floor here. And on the second option, it actually, in good weather, this thing right here is an exterior ramp. So this option is actually giving the possibility removing the elevator, but still having 2 stories because we provide an exterior ramp to get up to the 2nd story, so that the need for an elevator is not there. But because of that, that can also be an exterior walking surface as well. So the walking path will connect to the ramp, and you can do a full circle up and down.
Just one observation, this isn't which one I like better, but each one of them, the library is totally different.
Yeah,
And
like I said, this is a smorgasbord of
Yeah.
options. We're trying to figure out what one you would prefer. And some of these, we've already heard comments from some people prior to this meeting that they're envisioning the library to be someplace else in the new building, which is also an option. We can put the library in the new building, that we can do.
I forgot to mention.
Did you have a preference?
well, my idea, I thought we had meetings where we decided what we wanted the content to be, and we would design these around the content. So I would have thought we'd already gotten to the part where we figured out what are the parts that we wanted in the library. I'm not saying what they have to be, I'm just saying,
So all that content
yeah,
we put into this program, right?
yeah,
These plans are based on this program.
okay.
So even though you don't see maybe a label for that content, it's in there if it's in the program. The areas, this colored areas, are basically just square footages, all right? The details are not there yet, all right? So in one, you might just see the library, but it doesn't break it down into the collections area, the office, the entry point, and stuff like that. That's because we haven't gotten that detail yet. Also, in these plans, you won't notice too many windows and too many doors and stuff like that, because we haven't gotten to that detail yet. We're still trying to figure out the massing, the layout, the associations, and the connection points, and the flow of the wire. The next meeting we come to, they'll have a lot more of that detail.
Where's the senior center on this one?
The middle one,
Yeah, that one.
the purple area, let me just give you a little key on the plan. Purple represents the senior center. The brownish orange represents the library. The light blue represents town, the city hall function, the city town superior functions. The blue area represents the business center. The yellow area represents the makerspace. The orange areas represent education center, which are classrooms and the dance hall. And the pinkish areas represent the indoor public area and gym spaces.
So that's right. The library switched with the classrooms. Library to put in the new building next to the gym, and classes go in the class area.
Just from the standpoint of this square footage,
Yes,
pretty much
same
the
story.
same.
My concern is, where's the parking for the seniors?
Parking for the seniors? In almost all the options, there's still on-street parking, but also we've made the availability that the seniors can park on the street, because we've heard that that is something that they like, they want to be able to park directly into the senior center.
Right.
But we also have made allowances for parking in the parking lot with a path to the senior center.
Well, I understand that, but get them close enough that, I mean, some of them.
They'll be able to enter from the Porphyry Street entrance, and that's at grade. That was one of the reasons why that was looked to be on this side, so that way they could enter at grade right in there, so.
In all the options, you'll see that what we're planning for the existing building is that we're going to replace the windows, we're going to upgrade the building, and we're going to restore the Porphyry and the Low Street streetscape to be accessible for on-street and handicapped parking.
I also wanted to mention, and I think this may have been brought up to you guys already, at some point, the town has planned on extending Line Street all the way through, so that's going to affect some of the configuration of the parking lot and, yeah,
Yeah, well,
yeah, so,
we can reconfigure the parking.
okay.
Is that like a definite deal?
No, but it's in discussion, so I don't want to, we don't want to
Put a parking
put up a
lot.
parking lot and then
Oh.
us have to tear part of it down because we're extending it.
What purpose was that service if we don't use it now like we should?
I'm not sure, we discussed it a couple of times at a couple meetings and maybe talk and elaborate on that.
The main concern would be that if we have this large building with only one point of access, that we may want to develop Lime as a through street so that we can, we have less of a dead end. But it's probably not going to happen in the immediate future, but it's just an option that we might consult in the future.
If that was the case, Tom, would that mean that this whole building could be moved further north? Would that just, how did you get it?
It's possible, but it may not be necessary, because if you look at the configuration of that bottom corner, it would have to be, it's currently a wash. So the wash would have to be filled, so it's not something that's gonna happen right away. But if you look at this, it would affect about 20 parking spots. They'd have to figure out a place to put 20 additional parking spots.
Well, I think what I like about this middle, what do you call this?
Grande.
The grande, is because of the senior access on Porphyry, and the kitchen, this side, because you can start building that out, without any impact over here. You get the seniors out of Main Street, and get them up here, get the buildings sold on Main Street, and there's no impact to the operation of the town.
Josie and Carol, how are you guys feeling about this?
Well, I like this right here, but I like this for here. That's what I like. I mean, I like it shaped there because, like you said, you can see it that way. This way, I don't know, but.
That's what we're here for. That's why we present three options.
But,
as we know.
yeah, because right here, it's, to me, it looks like it's too far. Puzzle area, what is that, black cloud, that's living room. I mean, I like all my group to be together. You gotta watch it. You gotta listen, you have to. But yeah, I like that.
So you'd prefer a more open activity area versus having quiet spaces with little nooks?
Yeah, yeah. Because I like the way this is, the office, the flex, and then, they're still in the open area compared to being a distance here. But that's what I like.
And Josie, how about you?
I like this concept, that one. And as Tasha said, if you want to do it, if you want to do the gym, the library staff, so the, on the test center will have to be close. But not close enough that it would be growing.
Yeah.
And we like this.
The single level plan for the library?
To clarify that requirement, the feasibility study and the budget for this says that we have to share staff in order to make this project feasible. So single point of entry, expanding the library staff a bit, and so they can staff it. There's not enough money available in the regular budget to staff two complete separate staffs. So we have to combine the staff and just expand it a little bit so that we can have the library staff also checking out basketballs, and that makes this project feasible. And that's more important than just the our long-term plans. It's also, I have to present that as part of our audit to USDA in order to qualify for the funding. They require a full feasibility audit before we even start this. It's currently in draft form, and it's based on the shared staffing.
But wasn't there original plans that the new building had the library and gym together?
Yes, and that would still happen.
Oh, okay, but that's none of these.
No, and we actually, we call it a brain fart. We thought that, thinking about the phasing of the building, we wanted to think about how it would be built without affecting, other functions. And also at the same time, is each phase giving something to the community that actually people actually notice and it's sort of like a new image to the building. So that's why when we were talking about the new building, is that if you do the new building as a second phase, we wanted to give you the most bang for your buck. And since classrooms, gaming rooms, stuff like that would be a really nice addition for the entire community, And the library being already have an existing function, we thought that we could push the library off to maybe a third phase or later phase. But with that said, if our plans do accommodate that the square footage that we allocated for the classrooms and the game rooms in the new building is identical to the square footage for the library, so we could just flip-flop the two. So,
I guess the other question is, Todd, in terms of our financing the whole project, once we get the money, or once we're approved, how fast can we do? I mean, our phase is gonna be 5 years, or are they gonna be 12 months?
The contract with Resolution Copper has phasing in it. The next phase is in March of this year, and we get $500,000, $800,000, I have to look at the contract, to do the modifications to the existing building. So that first tranche of money can be used to move the senior center up and to make other, if the library was in the old building, it could be used to move the library up. That is unfortunately long-term not feasible. Short-term, it makes a lot of sense. So it's just a difference between how we're looking at it.
How about utilities? Is there any major stuff that they can go through for utilities, both the sewer and electrical?
yes, we will, the new building is going to need all new utilities.
Now, how about the existing buildings?
The existing building upgrades.
The existing power panel on this building dates back to probably the original construction. So the main feed panel is going to have to be replaced at a minimum.
Is it replaced or removed by another location?
No, we're going to try to keep it, we're going to replace. I'd like to call it instead of replace, upgrade.
So that panel, is that also going to be the youth structure, the big one?
No, there'll be a new panel and new fuse for the new building.
Explain why makerspace is in its location for these two,
Sure.
as the possibility presents itself.
In all three options, the first two options located the makerspace at where the freestanding building. And the thinking of those two options was that we have toured and we have looked at and we've looked for precedent on makerspaces. And we want to tailor this makerspace to the town's community. So we're trying to give you something which is common to makerspaces, and that's the indoor makerspace where we will have printers and CAD/CAM devices and stuff like that. But one of the things that we've heard that would make a makerspace that would be used a lot is an outdoor welding shop. So we've tried to locate or find spaces where we could give you an outdoor welding shop, but at the same time screen it so it's not like an eyesore. All right. So in all the options, you'll see that the outdoor welding shop has got this like screen around it, and we're going to try to work that into the aesthetic and the elevations of the project.
Also, that building's window, that's right. Well, no, we're thinking what can go in there without.
Oh,
Right, and so
the makers in the makerspace, the ones that we toured, have very few windows actually in the makerspace rooms. And we also think that looking at the structure of this building and this building, that skylights would be available. So we can have skylights in that building to bring in light. In this space, because we're locating it in the brand new building, we have free reign to do what we want on the makerspace. Right. So each building you'll see that it's oriented to the south of the existing building. And the reason why we did that was on purpose, because we want these buildings, the new one, the two-story portion, because the new buildings will be, because they have the gymnasium and the basketball courts in them, and the minimum clear height of that space has got to be 24 feet, right? And we're going to put a pitched roof on it, so you're probably looking at your top of your peak of the pitched roof, probably looking like around 30 feet or more. So that building being that high will be able to be seen not only from Main Street, but also from US 60. All right. So each one of these options has one we located it to the south of the building. But then what we did is in this option we pulled it a little bit more out from the existing building. This one we turned it due south and north, so it could be seen more from Main Street and I-60. And in this building, we actually sort of try to present this facade and this facade as this angle being able to be from 60. That's why we were sort of positioning the building. But also we're using that new building as a way to create a courtyard. And each one of these presents a different type of courtyard. This one presents a more open courtyard, more unsecure courtyard. This one presents a more intimate, more secure courtyard. And then this one is sort of like a combination halfway between the two. Right?
There was a discussion when we had the original scoping back with that, about the orientation kind of being conducive to tying in the area between here and Main Street for the lost trail. With the option, is that still in the?
Yeah, so you'll see on some of these plans, we have these paths coming up from here, coming over from here. This one, it would be like coming from this way. That's the idea, because this corner here is where the wash is, and that comes down to that intersection there. So we're envisioning that some sort of path to come up from that way to the right. And then also,
Really different if you put Pine Street.
and then also, this alleyway here, we know that some people walk up that alleyway and come towards the building this way. So we wanted to sort of maintain that, just not make it a grand entrance. But we're also thinking that in all the options, this corner here of Lime Street and Loeb Street becomes sort of the main corner, the main entry into the facility. But sort of like the town entry. But we still have these secondary entry points for the library and the senior center off of Porphyry and Loeb Street. And if we move the library into the new building, then the library will have entry points off the parking lot.
Don't forget the flagpoles.
Any other questions? Like I said, if you come up with something or you just don't want to say it in this public forum, you can certainly send us the comments on our website, on this the Multi-Generation Center website. Our goal is to take your comments and take these three options, condense them into one option, take everything that you said, take all the feedback, and up into one option. So you won't see these three options again. It's going to be a combination of those in our next meeting, which is on the 30th. And we encourage everybody to come here on the 30th. That meeting is solely going to be the multi-generation building. It starts at 6 o'clock and we will be here. 4 to 6? 4 to 6. It starts at 4 and it's going to go as long as we need to be here.
So for the council, if we have competing ideas like Carol was saying, because I like what she was saying, between reconfiguration, how does it get to you? How does it get so we're not dealing with a bunch of 1,000 inputs and how's that filter?
That's our thought.
I
Our
also
job is
think,
to iron it out and make the decision.
based on what Todd said as well, obviously finance comes into play for this, and future finance comes into play for this. So I think we have to take that into consideration, developing this. Like you said, we have to staff it. What's the most feasible way to staff it with the future finances that we have? I think we really need to take that into consideration as we move forward. I'd like to, all three, not necessarily sold on an elevator as cost effective, but, if we have to, combine different ones, different ways, I think that's probably more acceptable for us. That's my opinion.
Who's gonna maintain the elevator?
You
You know, for the 30, I appreciate this to see different layouts and all of that. But some people, like you guys who are architects, I know that you look at that and you can see in your mind the way it looks from ground level. I like the, what do you call them? I can't think of it. Like a model or even a drawing that shows it from ground level to help see what the layout looks like.
On the 30th, we will have perspectives and views showing what it would look like walking up to the building, what it would look like in the building and stuff like that.
I have a question. On the grande option, where are the entrances from the parking area?
The entrance on the grande level, if you're looking at it, that's the main entrance is one point of entry. So you see where that circle area is?
Over on the
Yeah.
east side? That's it? So if you're parking way out on that west side, you have to walk all the way the length of the building? How far is that?
It's like 150 feet,
Oh, that's all?
200 feet.
Oh, So now you've got one.
It all depends on where you go. For scale wise, I'll give you this. So if you look at the corner of the makerspace of the existing building, and you take that up to the corner of the existing building, all the way up to the intersection of Porphyry and Lowe Street,
Mhm.
that is about 275 feet.
Okay. No, I didn't see any entryways on that south side, and I was just wondering if.
No, and like I said, the doors haven't been located. There obviously would be a door at the stairway, because that's the way out the stairway. There also would be but those doors wouldn't be entry doors if you want us to sort of maintain a single point of entry for
Okay.
security.
And that was the idea of this?
Correct.
Right, okay, I got it.
There's gonna be one person sitting at a desk checking out books and basketball. So we have to have that person be able to do both those functions and not have somebody sneak in behind her in the building or him behind him in the building.
Are you gonna mind having your office right there and doing all that while you're?
Just got a new job at us.
That was your idea, right?
I do the front desk, so
I'd like a business license of basketball
we have not co-staffed town hall with the library and the multi-gym, because our front desk is just too busy to do that.
I said this the last time, I hope everybody came. Anybody have a new joke?
Do you?
Do I? No, I'm supposed to hear from you.
Russ, can you kind of go over the phasing again, and then,
The phasing.
we want to look at that noise.
In all three options, what we were thinking about phasing is that we know that the first phase has got to be the senior center. And like we said, we want to try to understand, or try to do the construction that we don't have to do things twice. Now, in the Magma option, that there's a difference there. Because the senior center and is located in this room, we would have to find another location for this function while we're doing that construction in there. So that would actually become the first phase in that option, is to find a new location, a temporary location for the town chamber, okay? In the other two options, the phasing is pretty straightforward. Senior center first, and then you have your choice to make. It could be either to finish up the renovation of the existing portions of the building, or do the new building, or do them both at the same time, okay? But it gives you that option, right? And in the first two options, is if you decide to do the new building first and give your town a new multi-generation image, these two projects can then be headed up. It gives you the most bang for the buck. And that's why we sort of located in this option of classrooms in the new building, is because we figured if you do the new building as a second phase, you want to have the classrooms and you want to have all those nice rooms available after the second phase. But that, if you want the library to be that function, that can happen as well, all right? But the phasing is broken down with the very simple concept, is that you never have to redo something, and that the next step or the next phase doesn't affect what has already been done, all right?
So where, in that phasing, we've got one is the senior center, two is
Right.
the gym building, and
In this, well, in any of the options, what would happen is the senior center would be first, and then if you choose to completely renovate the rest of the building, then all this would be the second phase, okay? And then the third phase would be the new building, all right? Or if you want to split up those phases, first phase, still the senior center, second phase, the new building, third phase is renovating all the existing building. All right, now at some point in time, and that will be left up to us, is to figure out when you do the landscaping around the buildings, okay? That's the only function which we think will happen after everything else is completed, is the landscaping, because that will be affected by any other construction which are in the phases. So any of the landscaping and the public spaces, and the ramps or anything like that, in the parking lot would probably be the final phase.
the phasing is relative to the funding. So if there's insufficient funds to do everything, then maybe we're able to do phase one, phase two. So we just kind of have to look at it's kind of.
We actually are anticipating that phase, the final, the new building would be the most expensive phase. So it's whenever you guys get the biggest chunk of money, that's when we would do the new building. But we also didn't want that to hold off renovating the existing building. So that's why we go to the two phases. And also, one of the other ideas that we're working on is the landscaping. We'll see that there's multiple different options for the landscaping, and it's pretty extensive, but it doesn't have to happen all at once. We are anticipating that the landscaping can take many years, and that the budget, it could be spread out. It doesn't have to happen all at once. You can actually break down the landscaping phase into multiple phases as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
Based on this discussion, do you feel like you have enough information to develop a single set of plans for the next one, or are you going to be coming back with multiple options at the 30th meeting?
No, we have, from what we heard today and from the meetings that we had prior to this public discussion, before we put up the plan, I feel that we have enough information to come up with one plan. Now, it might not push all of everybody's buttons, but that's what the meeting on the 30th is going to do. That we want to hear back is what did we get right and what we got wrong. But we will have one plan on the 30th with perspectives, with views, with more detail in the plan. So it won't be just saying library. We're going to break out the whole library and show all the spaces and stuff like that. And that's what we're planning for the 30th. And that is why on the 30th, we want, we're holding it from 4. The time is from 4 to 6, but actually that's all we're here for. So if it goes beyond 6, it goes beyond 6. We want to get as much feedback as we can on the 30th. Yes.
I got a question for technical, is fire suppression. I know you have the older building, maybe grandfathered, maybe fire suppression is not required, but I guess that would be required in the new phase for this building.
It's going to be required.
But on all buildings or just the new building?
I'm going to give you my architect's answer. As architects and as a person who looks towards safety, I would recommend that we sprinkle every buildings. Okay? Now, do they need to be sprinkled? We'll have to look into the code to see if that's possible or if that's allowed, or like you said, grandfathered in. But you're absolutely right. The new building, the new gymnasium, will have to be sprinkled. Yes.
2018 IBC, International Building Code, requires every building to have a sprinkler system in every new residential houses. Pinell County just amended the IBC 2018 code as an optional. They included word optional.
Yeah, and as this is not a residential, it would probably still be required to have sprinklers. I believe we probably hit into the 50% rule. When we're modifying the existing building, it's grandfathering goes away if you do more than 50% improvement. So we're probably going to have to sprinkler the whole thing. That's.
I was looking at this issue for another project this morning, assembly building occupancies, educational hazardous storage, for certain ones that automatically trigger them. You have to study for this one, but some.
So it's possible that it will require, in a 40,000 square foot building, we're probably talking about $250,000 to sprinkler? Roughly.
Okay, so this was actually the first step of the schematic design phase. The next meeting, the 30th, is going to be the second meeting in the schematic design phase. Okay? Then after that, we are going to schedule one additional meeting where we're going to show you the plan after we get feedback in the next meeting. That's going to be marking the end of schematic design. And that also then begins the next of what we call design development. I like to tell you a little story about like how this phasing is going to go on. Imagine you have a bowl, okay, and you're putting rocks in the bowl. Okay? The first rocks that you start off with are these really big rocks. Those are these general ideas that we're working on here. Okay? These are the schematic design rocks. So we put those in the bowl. Then you get to design development, and you're putting in medium-sized rocks. Okay, so you're throwing these medium-sized rocks in that bowl, trying to get them all to fit in the bowl. All right? The next phase after that is called construction documents. Those are even smaller rocks, so you're putting those rocks in the bowl. Now, think about if you have to go and move one of the big rocks, and you have to move it, what happens? All the medium-sized rocks and all the little rocks start to fill in that gap, and you can never fit that big rock back into that bowl. All right? So what we're doing now is we're putting the big rocks into the bowl. So it's important that we get the big rocks set, so we don't have to move them ever again. All right? So that when we get to the next phase, design development, we start putting the medium rocks in the bowl, we get those right. Then we get to what I call the small rocks, the pebbles, we're putting those into the bowl, and then we start building the project. So when we start building the project, you're dumping cement into that bowl. So think about it. After you start building the project, you've got the cement in the bowl, it's concrete, it's really hard to move the big stones, right? That's why this phase is important. We're putting the big stones in. And the next phase is just as important, because we want to get those medium stones in there. So after it's all said and done, and we tip the bowl over, and the form comes out of the bowl, it's a freestanding object. It's a freestanding functional building with all the stones, with all the pebbles, with all the concrete in it. But if we mess it up, it ain't going to be that. So we have to go back. It causes us delays. It causes us issues of trying to fit everything into that bowl.
Was that in the book in architecture school?
No, I'm telling you.
No, you saw that on the Flintstones.
Yeah. No, it's 20 years worth of experience trying to explain to people the process.
And this is a question for Mr. Pryor. Todd, are you and the department head sitting down and going over this and having any more in-depth discussions on your own?
No. This is the first time I've seen these since we did the conceptuals, so we need to get around and get everybody together.
How I'd like to see this happen is, now that we've got the bigger rocks in the bowl, as you said, Russ, I'd like to see staff sit down and go through this, and then council, you specifically, if you have questions, comments, give them to Todd so we can work them out. I know we've got this big press on making everything this one access point of entry, and I think we have to be realistic in the back of our minds that we're still going to need some part-time people, because we want this place to be successful and being used, and let's just be optimistic about that. But I do appreciate that you guys found space for the Superior Hall of Fame. I'm sure Mr. Reese and Mr. Lira will be very happy about that. My only thought is that maybe we can put that and keep Carol's activity room more open, like maybe just reconfigure some of that in that particular plan. So, council, do you have any further questions or comments for staff or for our architectural team?
No, I don't. Thank you. Thank you for the different options. I think there's, good to take from each one. So it's nice to have options. I would say I think my only concern is needing probably the library with the gym because of personnel, and that's not really in any of these options. So it's hard to visualize how we're gonna fit that.
That should be done.
And just one more caveat for staff. I don't necessarily think that the senior center being here in the council chambers is a really great idea. I think that could create a lot of extra collaboration that may not necessarily be effective to the workday. And I think the seniors deserve to have their own space and not just crammed into an old existing space. So I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of that. And this room actually does get used for regional meetings and police and fire training and things like that from time to time. So I'd like to just keep that in mind. So with that, thank you to our GLHN team. I know you guys have been out and about and touring different places, and we appreciate all your efforts, and thank you for putting this together, and looking forward to seeing you all at the end of the month. With that, I need a motion to adjourn the work session. There's a motion by Councilmember Aguilar, is there a second? Second by Councilmember Armitage, all in favor? Aye, any opposed? Motion carries, and we are right at the 7 o'clock hour. Okay, we're gonna start at 7:10, so give everybody a minute to regroup because you've been sitting for an hour.